Good evening, and welcome to the Together Women Rise October National Webinar. My name is Linda Schneckenberg, and I'm delighted to be here with you for tonight's special program. I'm a chapter leader in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I also serve as a regional leader for the Southeast. If you are interested in learning about leadership opportunities with our organization, please email info@togetherwomenrise.org and we will set up a time to speak with you. For tonight's webinar, only our speakers can be seen and heard, but we encourage you to interact with each other through the chat function. Please share where you are from and if you are new to Together Women Rise. We will have time for Q&A, so please put your questions in the chat and we will do our best to get to as many as we can. I would like to especially welcome anyone who is new to Together Women Rise and to tell you a little bit about our organization. Together Women Rise is a powerful community of women and allies dedicated to achieving global gender equality. We have hundreds of local chapters across the country where members learn about gender equality issues and build community with each other and with women and girls around the world. Through the generous support of our members and donors, Together Women Rise has funded over 60 projects in over 60 low-income countries. Our grants are guided by the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which provide a blueprint for achieving a better and more sustainable future for all. We fund a wide range of gender equality projects, such as maternal and child health care, gender violence reduction, women-led business opportunities, education for girls, and many other important endeavors. Each month, we support both a one-time featured grantee and a 3-year sustained grantee. We are happy to have representatives from both of our grantees here with us tonight. We will begin with our featured grantee, Nashulai Maasai Conservancy, whose goals are to conserve wildlife, preserve culture, and reverse poverty for the Masai tribe in Narok County, Kenya. COVID conditions have led to increased food insecurity and the collapse of employment opportunities. These difficulties have caused Maasai communities to revert to more traditional customs and ways of coping. The project that RISE is funding aims to reverse increases in teen pregnancies, early marriage, female genital cutting, and gender-based violence. This project will improve the lives of Maasai girls and women now and in the long term. First, we'll watch a short video from Nashua Maasai Conservancy, and then we'll meet our speakers. Stay with us. I'm sure that Wendy will have our technical difficulties solved in a moment.
Nashulai means a special place, a sacred place. Nashulai is the first community-led, owned, and operated conservancy in the Masai Mara. The vision of Nashulai is to conserve wildlife, preserve the local culture, and reverse the cycle of poverty.
Conservancy has a mixed model. We have core areas for wildlife conservation, but also the community members, they live within the Conservancy. We don't take them out. We decided that it would be good to come up with community empowerment projects. And some of these programs, we've divided them and we've been into various groups. One of them being for men, for the youth, for the girls, and for the women.
At Nashulai, our model stresses on preserving tradition as we look into the future. Therefore, women empowerment and girl empowerment became paramount from the outset. Like behind me, we have a training center where both boys and girls from Nashulai, from the community, will come and train and get local jobs within. And right here where we're standing, this is a prototype garden, a garden whereby we train ladies to do gardening, and so that they get the produce for their own benefit, for nutrition purposes. So the ladies will normally come, we do gardening with them, and that way we give them seedlings that they take back home and they put up gardens there, and their families get to eat healthy, and also for economic purposes, they get to make money by selling their produce.
We aim at empowering 100 women in the poultry project. So far, they have even built houses for the chickens. Now we will give each and every one of them 7 chickens. That's 2 cocks and 5 hens to lay the eggs. The project is good for the women because, one, they can sell the eggs they get from the chicken and earn a source of income. And also, after the chicken have finished laying their eggs, they can sell them for meat in the market. To help them, show them how to rear chicken, because it's not something they're used to, we have set up a demonstrative poultry in Nashulai Conservancy, whereby they can come and see how we rear our own chicken, and they can carry the same thing with them and do it at home.
We also facilitate Srh trainings. These are trainings for young girls, for them to get to understand more about their bodies. We teach them about children's rights and girl rights so that they are empowered.
We came up with that program because we have an issue around here with the girls. Most of them drop out of school because of early pregnancies, because of the FGM, because some don't even know they have a right to be in school. So they came up with a program. They trained us as the trainers. Then we called in the girls. It was taken positively. The girls responded. We had a big number. And we would love to go wide because it is of positive impact into our girls. We can see the enrollment is a bit high now. The girls know what they should do, and we would love to have more of these programs to keep them a bit busy. This program is impacting positively to the pupils, and we hope to have a better life come the future.
As we are girls, we have learned how to avoid early pregnancy, and we have learned our rights, that we have right to go to school.
Nashulai Masai Conservancy saw the importance of establishing this Women Empowerment Center in Sekenani Center. This is because it's close to the gates where the tourists go through. The women here come in intervals. We have about 100 women from the Conservancy coming here, learn how to make reusable sanitary towels, add value to beads, and earn money out of it.
Sisi amefurahi sana juu wamama samani na beba kuni. Siku hizi endi kuni, kukutana na ndovu ama kukutana na nyama yote juu sisi amefanya kazi mpaka apate gas, mpaka apate sufuria, mpaka apate shuka nipelekea rafiki zako. Juu nimefurahi nimepata kazi yako kabisa. Wamama wakae vizuri siku hizi. Nimepata kila kitu. Juu nimeona nilikuwa kama kesho yako.
One of the ethos of Nashulai our vision is to reverse poverty. And what a better way to tackle the tenacious cycle of poverty than actually to enhance women's livelihoods. So we believe that this grant can help our women to cross over the borders of poverty into prosperity, and that is what we aspire to achieve in Nashulai. We are elated to have received a grant from Together Women Rise. Thank you to Together Women Rise for this kind of support. We don't take it for granted. It's a very, very important support to our community.
This grant from Together Women Rise is going to give us a push. It's going to, help us achieve our dreams of getting out of our comfort zones, to reach more girls, to help them with these trainings.
We are eager to receive this funding because we have a big project for it. We will train girls in Nashulai and beyond in other conservancies and a bigger area of the Masai Mara so that as many girls as possible will benefit. This project also has a component of women empowerment, things to do with beadwork training, where our women will be trained on production of specialized bead products, and also they'll be trained on how they can market their products. It's an empowerment program. So we need to do it. We need to get more women. If possible, we want to cover almost about 2,000 girls. We want to get more women groups. We cover, instead of 5, we cover almost 50 more women groups in wide areas beyond our Nashulai Conservancy. We believe that the grant will have a big impact in areas beyond Nashulai, and it will be a big positive impact in the Greater Mara region.
At this time, I would like to call on Louise Dennis to introduce tonight's speakers from Nashulai Masai Conservancy. Louise Dennis was part of the founding dream of Nashulai Masai Conservancy when it began in 2016, and she has the privilege of being a director of the organization. She is also the executive publisher of the renowned book publishing houses of Penguin Random House and Knopf Canada. She has worked with many of their most admired writers, including our special guest tonight, Margaret Atwood. Louise?
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who has come from all over the United States to celebrate this moment with Nashulai and your grant, and to meet Margaret Atwood and Maggie, Reiyia, Koshal, who you saw in that small video. And I'm going to start by introducing the inimitable Margaret Atwood, who you all know. Who could not know of Margaret Atwood at this point? She is truly one of the leading writers in the world, but with a body of some 50 books over 45 countries, of poetry, critical essays, novels, and graphic novels. She never stops, so she's gone from novels to graphic novels. But all of you will probably be aware of her last novel, The Testaments, which was the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, which has of course now been an award-winning TV series. And the fifth season of that will probably come out sometime beginning of next year, so you can wait for that. Her other works of fiction include Cat's Eye, Alias Grace, and one of my favorites, which is Hagsteed and the Mad Adam trilogy. She's the recipient of so many awards that I would take up far too much time, but I'm going to mention simply the Priest Prize of the German book trade, which is a hugely important prize, and the Franz Kafka International Literary Prize, and the Penn Center USA Lifetime Achievement Award for freedom of expression. Margaret is a personal friend, and I have the great honor of being one of her editors and publishers. And I'm constantly amazed, as you will be, with her great heart, her great mind, and the passion she brings to those issues that she has believed in all her life and fought for all her life: social justice, the environment, and of course, women's empowerment. And you all know that from the novels you read, and indeed from her poetry, which dearly was published just last year, her new collection of poetry, and I beg you all to read it because it's so wonderful. So I'm very, very happy to introduce Margaret Atwood and to thank her for coming to this event. She's been a supporter of Nashulai almost since its inception, and knows it well and believes in it, as I hope you will too. So, Margaret.
Hello. Are you going to introduce Maggie?
Has she arrived?
Yes, she's right there. I can see her.
Good.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie. I can't see you yet.
Yes,
I
Maggie's
can't see you.
right there. She's wearing a beautiful red top, and she looks wonderful, even though it's 3 a.m. in the morning there. So she's smiling. So I think you can safely introduce her.
Okay. All right, Maggie. Maggie Reiyia Koshal, who you all just saw in the video, is from the Maasai community in the Masai Mara, but has a very fascinating life herself. She, I call Maggie, dear Maggie, I call Maggie Nkanashe, sister, and she calls me the same. And to me, this is one of the greatest privileges of my life. And this is a woman who, when you get to know her, you can only love her and admire her greatly. Maggie was one of the rare young girls who didn't get cut as a young girl, thanks to female genital mutilation cutting, thanks to a very strong father, a great chief, who once fought a leopard all through the night and survived, and insisted that his 2 girls would go to school. This was extraordinary 30 years ago. But Maggie did that with her sister, and she then spent time in Nairobi getting a degree in business management, and has since gone on to do other academic work to help her in the work she's doing in the Masai Mara. But she went back. She didn't want to stay in Nairobi. She went back in order to give back to the community that had raised her. And she and Nelson, her husband, are very much about giving back themselves. So they live again now in the Masai Mara all the time. They have done this extraordinary work, and at several levels in the Masai Mara. And Maggie, in particular, as director of the Women's Empowerment Center, is leading not just the Nashulai community forward, but girls and women throughout Kenya in the Maasai community. So she's an extraordinary woman. Please welcome Maggie along with Margaret.
Can you see Maggie now?
I can. She's appeared. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Hello, Maggie. It's wonderful to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
And it's extraordinary what you've accomplished in such a short period of time. Because I remember when this started, and it was an idea, and it was an idea that came along at a sort of fatefully good time, because no sooner had you got the environmental part of the project up and running than COVID hit. And because they already had the organization due to the environmental work, they were able to organize feeding their community, and then by extension, the communities all the way around them. And I've seen video footage of what you were doing, which involved collecting the food and then making it into family parcels and handing it out. And that was pretty much women doing all of that work. And I've also seen the video footage of cleaning up the river. I was pretty astonished that there was so much plastic in it. How did that happen? But they did it, and they cleaned it all out. And I saw that was also women doing that work. So it is an amazing
women's community organization that now exists. And you have that organization in place, which allows you to then build it out to communities around. Nashulai, as a conservancy organization, has become a model for other communities in the region. It's being copied. And I think the work that you're doing with women and girls is also going to be a template for working in communities in the area. So it's a model that can be replicated. And there are 4 things that all go together when we're looking at the position of the planet today. And one of them is the climate crisis, which we know about. And hand in hand with that is going to have to be an effort to equalize wealth, make it more horizontal. We just saw the big scandal of all of these people who got their trillions parked in offshore locations, so they're not actually even paying taxes. So that has to become somehow more equitably distributed, world wealth. And women and girls are actually key to the climate crisis, and all these pieces fit together. Because if you improve the position of women and girls, if you look at an organization called Project Drawdown, you will see that they've got women and girls. The education of women and girls is one of the key improvements that we can make now to cause a net drawdown of carbon from the atmosphere by 2050. So that's one of the key things. So women and girls, the environment, the climate crisis, and wealth equalization, they're all connected. So good for you, Maggie. I don't know how hard you work. I think you work harder than me.
And that's tough. Maggie?
Yeah. So thank you very much for having us have these discussions. And thank you so much, Margaret, for taking us through the fact that women are in the middle of all this, because we know that women hold together the society. And it's important that we have the women included in everything that's going to bring prosperity within communities. And I'm going to take, for example, my community. And, you know, the Maasai people are quite traditional people, and they have a governance of their traditions. And for a long time, the Maasai people have not gone to school. And we know that the only thing that's going to change everything around is education, and especially for women. And so we are embracing education, which is going to bring about change within our girls, because when you educate a girl, you educate the entire community. So here at Nashulai, what we are doing is that we're making sure that girls are going to school, completing school, understanding who they are, and helping their community at large. So education comes key at Nashulai Maasai Conservancy. And then women empowerment projects, because most of the projects, and you know, men are the head of the family in this part of the world. Men have a say, and through education, a girl can be able to, you know, take care of herself, understand who she is, and help the rest of the girls. So at Nashulai Maasai Conservancy, we have a series of projects that spearheaded by women. You know, for example, when we talk of the river restoration project, we had a cleanup of the river, and we saw the women come out, you know, cleaning the river themselves with their own hands, because they know that they're the users, the first users of that water. If they don't clean that river, then it's their children that are going to have waterborne diseases. So Nashulai Maasai Conservancy, me being the leader with the women projects, we have seen to it that we are going to make sure that we help our women understand the environment so that we can do things that will protect the same environment and that will give the same back to us. So we as well have a project during COVID. Like you see, during COVID-19, we live in an area whereby tourism is key. Tourism is the major economic activity. And when COVID happened, we saw families, being threatened because they depended on tourism. And the moment tourism came to, when COVID affected tourism, when everybody stayed where they belong, like when they stayed in their own countries, then the Maasai people started suffering because there was no revenue streaming down. So as Nashulai, we did a crowdfunding and we started feeding our community. And as Margaret puts it, it's the women that came out to distribute the food, to carry the food for their, family members, because they're the first caregivers of their families. So we see that a community with empowered women is a community that is strong at the end of it all. So again, we're running projects like the bead. We are adding value to our beads. So there's a beads project going on at Nashulai. We are teaching women how to add value to beads so that we can find a market for them outside the country and within the country. And that way, the women have revenue coming back to them. So we as well running other projects to support women within the Conservancy, like other projects like kitchen gardens. Kitchen gardens, the ladies are taught how to do gardening so that they can, at the end of the day, have a balanced diet for their family members, so that they can have little kitchen gardens whereby they can get their vegetables and make sure that food security is quite okay within the community. We're having another project, for example, again, to empower women and to help girls stick to school. We have a project called the Reusable Sanitary Towels. We have women in our village. We have a center where we come together with the women. They are trained in batches and they are able to make sanitary towels. Again, this one gets to help the girls go to school. We know that we come from a community, poverty is real. And within Nashua Masai Conservancy, we are preserving our culture, we are reversing poverty, while at the same time we are conserving wildlife. So we're trying to reverse poverty by having the women learn how to make sanitary towels. An issue, it's an issue within the community because most girls don't go to school for a number of days simply because they do not have sanitary towels. And during that time of the month, they cannot go to school because they're afraid of missing their clothes, and this way they're missing days of school. And when they miss days of school, they miss lessons and their performance is affected. So at Nashulai, we spearhead projects that will make a woman, fit into the society. A woman, get out of her society, be strong and help the rest of the people. So Nashulai has pretty much been on the front line to help with women empowerment as we do conservation matters. So those are the few things we do in Nashulai. And so far so good. We thank God that it's creating an impact within the community. And, together Women Rights and other organizations that are helping Nashua, we want to say thank you for holding our hands in, holding our hands for the dreams we have. You're holding our hands to achieve the dreams we have for these people in Kenya.
I want, Maggie, can you hear me? I want to ask, and I'd love you to tell people a little bit more about the fact that what this community is doing is unique. This is the first Maasai governed and directed community conservancy in that part of East Africa. So all the other big conservancies are not Maasai owned, even though it is Maasai land on which they all sit. And so for the Maasai to say, look, we are not going to be in a vulnerable situation again as we were with COVID. We're going to be running our own conservancy. The money and the revenues, we're going to find a way for them to come down to the Maasai people themselves instead of disappearing elsewhere. And in the feeding of COVID that Margaret has talked about and Maggie, you talked about, it began with, we've got to look after our people because all the markets are closed, there is no food, which is what food insecurity means. And there was a threat of starvation, which was recorded in all the newspapers. But having fed all the people of the community by crowd raising and being able to get some food in bulk and then dividing it, as Margaret said, into packages, very equal packages for every family member. The Maasai have a saying, right, that you cannot just feed yourself if your neighbor is going hungry. And so this community decided, Maggie and Nelson, the community decided, we have somehow to find a way to feed all the Maasai in the neighboring areas because they're all in the same position. And with just 2 trucks and 6 land bikes, motorbikes, they were taking food by the end of 4 months weekly to 25,000 people. And there was no government money, there was no NGO money, there was no money at all to do this. Okay, so, or nobody else, no other community was doing this either at all. And this was even before we won the UN Equator Prize for Sustainability. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. So just to mention, Nashulai is the only Maasai-owned and run conservancy. And this is very unique. We started 6 years ago in 2016. And this was by the community members coming together and wanting to make better use of their land. This is a very unique conservancy because the rest of the conservancies in Kenya are run by the big guys. Most of them are not even Masai. So when this particular conservancy Nashulai started, it was a unique one because it's the people that sat down and agreed to give their land for a better use, for conservation. This is because they believe that this land does not only belong to them, it belongs to their children and it belongs to their future generations. So they brought their land together, both women and men. You see now land was subdivided and women have land, men have land, and together they came together and said that let's give this land for a better use. And Nashua is very unique in this case because when these people agree to bring their land together, they are the ones managing their land. They know that they have to take care of the land for themselves. They started good projects like, for example, an education bursary. With the money they were earning from this conservancy, they put money aside, which is very smart and it's a very good initiative from the local people because they knew that if we don't do something, if we don't put money aside, you see, their children, every time school was opened, people will have fundraisers towards the education of their children. Nashua is very unique in a way that they put an amount of their money aside and they put it into a bursary kit, and then their children are going to school. They are able to pay their own school fees for the children, which is very good. We saw less fundraisings happening now at Nashua, more children going to school, and this is helping us in advocacy to to end old practices within our community, like female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation is a practice that has been, with the Maasai people from the beginning of it all. So now, if they are the ones, putting money aside to educate both their girls and boys, then they're helping us in advocating against this. Because when we have our girls go to school, they will learn about their rights. And when they learn about their rights, they can stand up in their community and say that we want to make our own decisions. We want to have an education instead. We do not want to have early marriages, because this is something else we are fighting against. Early marriages are very common within the community, although the numbers are going down because of our advocacy, which is bearing fruit. So when you educate girls and they get to know the importance, we see early marriages going down and more girls going to school. And when more girls go to school, we have a community that is, enlightened. And for many years, taking myself back to my own story, growing up in this village where girls will go to school and then drop out of school to be married. Now I'm very happy to see Masai girls graduate from school. Masai girls come back to the village and to give back to their community, which is good, because now we have both boys and girls having an education, coming back, grabbing job opportunities, which is going to translate to money or to finances, better finances for their families. Good health comes along with that, because with the knowledge that, with the knowledge from school, they're able to have a healthy diet, they're able to live healthy. So this Conservancy has really transformed lives. And you see, just within a very short time, we were able to win a UNDP Equator Prize 2020 for the good things that we are doing, for being a unique conservancy, for being a conservancy that truly cares about the people, truly cares about the community, because we know that communities stand out strong when they come together and just do everything, for their own benefit. So Nashulai has been that.
Can I just ask one question before all the other good questions come up?
Yeah.
Because one of the things you touch on there, Maggie, and that Margaret touched on, and I would just love to hear a little, just quickly from Margaret on that, because one of the things that I think really engaged you, Margaret, it was the holistic model that Maggie was talking about, that the health of everything is interdependent. So the health of women is dependent on the healthy community. Healthy community is dependent on a healthy land, on healthy values, healthy environment, fighting climate change, making sure that everything is working together. Am I right in that, Margaret? That
absolutely, and the fourth thing that goes together with the climate change, the women and girls, and economic horizontalism is taking advice from Indigenous people who live on the land. So the fact that Nashulai is people who live on the land, it's their land. And I don't think we've said what they did to, at the beginning, to increase wildlife. They took down the fences. So fences are actually a European thing that came into Africa, got put up, and it meant that the animals could not go where they wanted to go. They couldn't move. So the Nashulai took down, the Conservancy took down the fences. That was a big risk, because what if lions came and ate all of your goats?
Mm-hmm.
But they set some money aside just in case a goat did get eaten, so that they could replace that goat. And all the people who were the farmers and in place agreed to do this. So it was a big risk everybody took. And the other threat in that area is poachers, because Nashulai Conservancy now has, because the animals voted with their feet, and their birth rate amongst the animals went up. So they got more giraffes, more elephants, more lions, and more poachers. So they created, well, you can see, they created a sort of, what would you call it, Maggie? You would call it an organization of young men who were rangers, I guess you could call them rangers, to patrol the land and deal with the poachers. And so they put everything in place, and they have been so successful in increasing the amount of wildlife that the other ones have now been coming to them and saying, how do we do this? What do we have to do?
Other communities, yeah.
To be like you? How can we take down our fences? How can we let the animals vote with their feet, which is what they have done. So by doing this, then they increased the productivity and liveliness of their ecosystem. They also cleaned up the environment as part of that, and that makes things healthier for the people who live there, and also gives them really, you need to have community pride. So
Yeah.
I would say that people are now really pleased with what they have accomplished, wouldn't you say, Maggie? That they see the results. It was a big challenge when COVID came, because who was going to come and see all these new giraffes, lions, and elephants? But then they dealt with that too, because the community had already pulled together around the issue of taking down the fences, seeing how that would work out. So I would say people took a risk. It has paid off.
Right. I would, yeah, absolutely. And just to Together Women Rise, it proves, I think that Nashulai, for me, and I think what you're saying, Fumar, it proves that we can rise together. It's living proof of that, Nashulai. And it is hope for our times, because what's happening there can be replicated. And that's what Maggie and the whole community want to see eventually, that it'll be replicated. Their whole model is to help other people to do the same thing as well. And the Masai Mara, like the Serengeti in Tanzania, just to the south, this is one of the global treasures of the world. And it is seeing extraordinary extinction of species, the disastrous, the savannas are in disastrous condition, the rivers are polluted, and the displacement of people into the cities, away from the land. And that is what they're working so hard to do. So I think it's hope for our times for all of us. In a way, Nashulai is not only doing this for their own community, but doing it for all of us, for the world. So
yeah, let us consider that people and animals live together for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And in this conservancy, they're doing it again, and it is working.
Yeah.
And Louise, just to add on to that, you know, when conservation started becoming a big thing, this was before Nashulai, they believed that, you know, you had to chase the Maasai people away from their land. You have to push them and create a big space whereby safari will be done, and that there is no, you know, Maasai person or a Maasai cow around. And Nashulai has proved that, you know, coexisting with their animals is the right way to do. This is because we've lived with these animals from time back. Our great grandfathers lived with their animals. They never poached animals for food. They never used, you know, any animal products for anything. They have some sort of mutual respect. So we've proved to the world that indigenous communities that are living with wildlife are the same security for the same wildlife. So you see the lions are safe, and the Maasai are not poaching lions. They're not, you know, taking down elephants for their tusks. If anything, as Margaret Atwood was saying, that these people are a strong community. They took risk, you know, in bringing down their fences, bringing their animals closer to them. If anything, the women of Nashulai even went a step forward, you know, to even show their bravery. They picked elephant dung and, you know, integrated it into soap. We added value to our soap. You know, we've done research and we know that
It's very good for you, dung soap.
Yeah,
elephant
yeah, you
dung
haven't
soap.
mentioned
Very
the elephant
fibrous,
dung
right?
soap. It's great.
Yeah, the elephants feed on, a large vegetation. And so taking elephant dung, processing it a bit, making soap out of it, a soap that's very famous now here in Kenya. And, people abroad, we have it, we've made it, and we can ship it to them. So you can imagine what's possible when, people just step out of their comfort zone and want change and, practice it. I mean, Nashulai has been a living example that, a story of possibility. We are the youngest conservancy, yet we have achieved so much just because we realized that, engaging with the community members, working together, is a possibility. And today we are smiling and we have a conservancy that's changing lives day in, day out. So Nashulai is a story of possibility. Nashulai is a story of hope, for our families. And we know that the future is looking good. And we want to say thank you to partners like Together Women Rise for their support and for, just holding our hand as we do what we do day in, day out. Yes.
And I'm going to just hold up this beautiful, because it's just come to us from Nashulai, and it's actually our Nashulai logo, but this beading would have taken a month. I mean, and I wear them all the time. And I say that because I just saw questions about, can you get it?
Yes, Louise, that brings us into our Q&A section, and I've been kind of keeping track on the chat here, and there are a couple questions about the work that the women do, the bead work and the sanitary towel. Are these things actually sold and available that our members could purchase?
Yes, that's a very good question. So here in Masai Mara, we have an empowerment center where we make the reusable sanitary towels, and we distribute to the girls' schools around our area so that they're able to stay in school. We as well make hand sanitizers, the soap, and they're available at our shop. So the thing is, we are selling them within the borders, and if anyone abroad is interested, we have an arrangement and we ship these to them. So it's possible to buy this.
All right, would love to have access to a website or anything where people could purchase things from you. We would love to support you that way. Just want to take a little bit of time for a few more of our questions from our attendees here tonight. I have a question for you, Margaret. Someone is curious about whether you see any connection between Nashulai and your work. Has the Conservancy inspired any ideas in your writing?
Well, I think it's as we say, copacetic with a lot of the ideas that I've had for some time, which was why Rick and Louise were so easily able to persuade me to support it. So I've believed for a long time. My parents were early conservationists. So they were, for instance, early Sierra Club back in the days when people thought that you were crazy to be doing that. My father was a biologist. He was very interested in conservation. So the first interest was this new way of doing conservation that Nashulai was trying out. But because I grew up in the Canadian North and knew that anybody who said that Indigenous people weren't there anymore, I knew that they were not telling the truth. And my father was of the generation, he's an old bushy guy, old guy of the bush. He always respected the traditional knowledge of people who had lived there for a long time. So I just grew up that way, and that to me is an essential piece in our efforts to reverse climate devastation and species extinction and desertification and all of these things that we are facing. You need to ask the people who live there. And by educating them, which we are doing in Canada through the Chief Harry St. Dennis scholarships for Indigenous students in environmental sciences. You need to give those people the modern tools that they need, but they will combine those tools, as Maggie is doing. She's combining education with the respect for culture. So give the people the tools that they need, they take them back to the community and help to elevate and integrate the community while at the same time taking care of their own land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who is best to be a stewardship of that land, a steward of that land, than the people who actually live there. So they have reversed the idea of kicking people off the land in order to make space for animals. They've shown that you do not need to do that. It has
Right.
a devastating effect on the people, and it's not good for the animals either.
Yeah.
Put up fences, it's bad.
Yeah.
I have a question here for Maggie. Where would you like to see your center in 5 years?
Thank you. So I would like to see the Empowerment Center duplicated, in so many local shopping centers here in Masai Mara. I would like to see many other branches in everywhere where we have schools and where we have girls and where there is need for the same. So in 5 years, I would like to see the women of the Mara get busy in those empowerment centers in every little space where trading is happening in markets, because I know this way the girls are going to be impacted. They will have, their needs will be taken care of. That is what I'm envisioning.
Great. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Several people did ask about how, about extending, what you're doing in other areas. And so it's wonderful to hear that you have that kind of vision. We are at about time on our Q&A, and I know that leaves a lot of people with questions that didn't get answered. And certainly Maggie, Margaret, and Louise, if you want to answer any of them in the chat, that would be wonderful. But I want to just call on Vina Conke, who you know well, our Director of Grants and Partnerships, to just say a few comments of thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy. This has been a wonderful journey to get to know Nashulai Maasai Conservancy. We've had wonderful conversations. Louise, Maggie, Nelson and Thomas, if you're up there watching at 3 a.m. from Kenya, and Margaret, you have allowed us to have...
There's Nelson! Hi, Nelson!
Oh, there you go. Hi, Nelson. Nelson and Rick are the two co-founders of Nashulai Maasai Conservancy. Thank you for being here. And Margaret, we do have to thank you because you've allowed us to have one of the largest chapter meetings that we've ever had before. So the RISE community thanks you. The three pillars that we have is about learning, giving, and community building. And right here, all of you are proving that the world is a pretty small place, that we can all come together and celebrate these wonderful values of holistic model of working, community building, the climate change issues, and how the impossible is actually the possible. So Nashulai Maasai Conservancy, thank you. Thank you for giving us such a wonderful vision. And now we are moving on, Linda, to introducing our next speaker.
Thank you, everyone, for your support. It's badly needed, and it's so appreciated. Thank you.
This is the last year of our 3-year $75,000 sustain grant to HealthRight International, located in Uganda. The project we are funding expands their maternal mental health program to target South Sudanese refugees. It introduces a cost-effective early intervention that can be delivered by lay practitioners. Representing HealthRight International tonight is Dr. Theresa Castillo, their Chief Program Officer. Dr. Castillo has been working globally in the fields of gender, social justice, and health equity for over 20 years. She has worked with civil society organizations, UN agencies, and ministries of health to build local capacity and to strengthen public health systems. Her research has focused on immigrant, refugee, and Indigenous women and girls health issues. Currently, she is an adjunct faculty member at Columbia University, New York University, and Bard College. Early in her career, she served as a maternal health specialist in Turkmenistan, Morocco, and Mali with the Peace Corps. Dr. Castillo holds a master's and doctoral degree in public health education from Columbia University. Welcome, Dr. Castillo.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you Together Women Rise for including HealthRight International in this month's national meeting. I am so honored and humbled to share this webinar stage with Nashulai, Masai Conservancy, and these accomplished women, Louise, Maggie, Margaret. I'm so inspired by your work, tenacity, and activism, and I wish you a hearty congratulations on your UN Equator Award. On behalf of the Peter C. Alderman Program for Global Mental Health at HealthRight, I want to extend our sincere appreciation to Together Women Rise for its continued support over the years for improving maternal mental health in Uganda. Last year, I was fortunate enough to meet with your Denver, Colorado chapter to share the shifts in programming that we've made during the COVID-19 pandemic. And tonight, I'd like to share our program updates from the past year. I believe Wendy has my slides, so I just want to check with her. Wendy, can you share my slide deck?
Yes, I will share it right now.
Great, thank you. Okay. So on the slides that you're about to see, if we could go to the second slide. Thank you. As you can see here, HealthRight's mission is to expand equitable access to quality health systems for marginalized communities. We focus on 4 main health issues, including maternal mental health, which falls under our mental health portfolio. Now I'd like to take a moment just to share a brief clip which highlights our work and summarizes the foundation of our current maternal mental health work in Uganda. Wendy, can you share the video?
In Uganda, women are undergoing depression. But they don't understand. They are not provided the knowledge. They don't know that that is a problem because they were not created that awareness in them.
Helping a mother come out of a problem is like helping the future.
The program is a community-based maternal mental health program which involves providing care to pregnant and breastfeeding mothers. The goal is to improve the psychological well-being of the perinatal women and functioning. The people involved are a team of psychosocial counselors who are based in the community.
As an organization, we really want to see positive changes. When we conduct the assessment, a mother is psychoeducated. We always see reduction of symptoms of depression, especially changes even in their functioning.
This program will support others. When you train someone, the others will copy so that they will improve.
This program has given me gratification, especially when a patient comes back with the good news that today I am doing well. It's better than anything to me.
Thanks, Wendy. Can we go back to the slides, please? So this seminal work has been essential for keeping mothers healthy, and it's been a benchmark for our new maternal mental health programming in Kenya, which just launched within the past year. Now, I'd like to give you a quick snapshot of the current context of COVID-19 in Uganda. Wendy, is the slide number 4, the 2 more, please. Thanks. So since the start of yes, thank you. Since the start of the pandemic, Uganda has gone through 2 lockdowns with very strict curfew policies in place and school shutdowns. And as infection rates have decreased in the past couple of months, restrictions have gradually been lifted. However, the country is still undergoing a slow COVID-19 vaccine rollout. And in spite of the steadier procurement of vaccines in recent months, many credit vaccine hesitancy and supply chain issues, such as an unsteady vaccine supply in the rural regions and repeated and sudden power failures that threaten vaccine storage units. That's particularly relevant when we think about Pfizer and Moderna as vaccines, which require extreme refrigeration and can be ruined as soon as those temperatures have changed. So here we see some of the core numbers. I think it's important to note that the Africa CDC has pegged Uganda as one of the struggling countries and has been asking for community and religious leaders' help to help with the education and reduce vaccine hesitancy overall. Next slide, please. At the height of the pandemic, most of our field activities were delayed or suspended during the lockdowns. Our non-essential staff began working remotely, and we enacted precautionary measures to ensure the safety and security of our staff and the communities that we serve. With the pandemic, as you heard in the previous presentation, livelihoods were challenged, as well as increased vulnerability to domestic violence and food insecurity and abuse overall. Within our program, we tried to address these issues in 5 ways, as you see listed below. We conducted an assessment mapping of our frontline staff to ensure proper safety and security measures related to COVID-19. So that meant providing PPEs, frequent testing, and addressing vaccine readiness. We launched an extensive health education initiative internally and with our community partners, which included weekly newsletters, PPEs again, social media, prevention materials, and town hall meetings. We also shifted to remote strategies such as telephone counseling for clients for follow-ups, as well as social distancing for key essential in-person meetings. And while we've been able to hold group sessions for psychotherapy outdoors, we've had to reduce the number of clients in that social distance setting to ensure the safety and security for all. We also developed organization guidelines and policies to be responsive to COVID-19 in alignment with the ministry and the safety and security guidelines issued by the police. In terms of direct programming, we adapted an approach for integrated programming to better meet the needs of our community partners. In Lamwell, in northern Uganda, we leverage HealthRight's existing trust fund for victims project, which is dedicated to rebuilding the physical and psychosocial well-being of the LRA war survivors in northern Uganda. The project helped bolster the identification and screening for perinatal depression among refugee women in ANC facilities. We also empowered community health workers to conduct mental health assessments to help facilitate and provide accessible care to women and their families. Next slide. Now I'd like to share two profiles of women in Lamwell, Mary and Grace. Both women are abductee survivors of war and experience extreme trauma, which has remained with them over the years. Mary and Grace are in multiple partner marriages and both have children. We first met Mary in March 2021. She was referred by a midwife during a routine visit for antenatal care and family planning counseling. After a mental health screening, she was enrolled in education and care. Struggling with depression, she described a host of symptoms, including sleepless nights, overthinking, body pain, loss of interest in her daily living, and difficulty eating. And through this project, we were able to support her healing through psychoeducation, individual therapy, and medication. At the end of 6 months of her treatment, Mary reported a marked improvement in her well-being and even offered to advocate and refer others who were struggling like her. Grace is a woman that we met in April 2021. She accessed care after attending one of HealthRight's community outreach events. She was managing multiple traumas, including sexual violence and verbal abuse from her family. And she had been contemplating suicide, including the challenges that she faced with her daughter in this situation. Her therapy sessions included strengthening her communication skills through role plays, which she attributes to improving her family dynamics and relationships with her husband and sister wife, both of whom she engaged in therapy to resolve their home life problems. Both Mary and Grace are a testament to the power of community-based strategies for improving maternal mental health. Next slide. Our team cannot thank Together Women Rise enough for your unwavering support over the years to keep moms and families physically healthy and mentally well. Such funding has allowed us to remain nimble and respond to the current circumstances in a safe manner for our staff, as well as the communities we serve. Thank you again.
Thank you to our wonderful speakers and to all of you for giving your time to learn about these important efforts. Before we close, I would like to remind you, let me stop here. Wendy, are we doing a Q&A first? I might have jumped in too soon.
Yes, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. Why don't you do our announcements while we wait to see if anyone puts questions in the chat?
That sounds great. Before we close and before our short Q&A, I would like to remind you to check our website for information on all of our upcoming events. Click on the Join Us tab, where you will be able to learn more and register for coming events. There are also recordings of past events. Here are a few of things coming up soon. Our advocacy group will meet on Tuesday, October 19th at 7 Eastern, and on Wednesday, October 20th at 9 Eastern. Our next book club event is on Wednesday, November 3rd at 8 Eastern. The featured book is Standing in the Way, From Trafficking Victim to Human Rights Activist, with co-authors Anjali Taman and Sarah Simmons. Sarah is the co-founder of Her Future Coalition, one of our past grantees. And on our November national webinar will be on Thursday, November 4th at 8 Eastern, and we will discuss our projects with Sansar Maya in Nepal and Bond Street Theater in Afghanistan. Back to you, Wendy.
Thanks, Linda. Dr. Castillo, Someone would like to know how you became involved in HealthRight.
It's a great question. You know, I had been introduced to HealthRight through a friend of mine who knew our executive director, Peter Navarro, who has spoken at your meeting. I believe he's come to your national meetings in years past. But I learned of HealthRight's work, and of course I knew of Jonathan Mann's legacy as one of the pioneers at looking at the intersection of health and human rights. So through conversations with Peter, I was excited to learn that there were new opportunities to join the organization, to continue the great work that they've done. And I originally joined as their director for women and children's health, and I've since moved into their chief program officer role. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to learn more about the programming beyond the women and children's health lens.
Thank you. We're always interested in how people come to the work that they do. I think Vina has a question for you.
So Theresa, you know, all of us are kind of in this stage of emerging out of the whole effects of COVID and all of that. Can you give us some idea of what you're thinking of 4 to 5 years into the future?
For our work as an organization?
Yes.
No, it's interesting. It's a timely question. We just went through, I think a lot of organizations struggle with this, this big question on how we want to work moving forward, given all of the challenges thrown our way during the pandemic. I think it's twofold. One, we realize the need for self-care and how essential that is to our daily lives, and recognizing that we're all trying to work through a pandemic, and that is an unnatural thing for us in this time period. The other part of it is, aside from self-care, is just recognizing the many different ways that we can work together to achieve the goals that we set out for ourselves. So our organization recently did a strategic planning exercise, and we've set goals in the next few years. And it sets us out until 2024. And the fortunate thing about that is that it's given us a chance to evaluate how we can really bolster organizations and partners on the ground so that they can take the lead and their voices are central on a daily basis to the goals that we've set out for ourselves, but even more so to improve the health conditions within the countries we work.
Absolutely. Another thing we've been hearing from a whole lot of our grantees is that how COVID has forced us to rethink the world. It's like, you know, you're not going to waste your time on some things that may take too long or maybe too difficult to do. But the sense of urgency of coming together and doing things. One thing we found is that if people had on the back burner this idea of doing digital tools and using kind of different ways of communication, all that has been suddenly fast-tracked. Kids are learning schooling through WhatsApp and they're using their cell phones and all of that. Do you find that coming together, that we're leaping into the future with the digital tools, but COVID has pushed us there and now we're not going back?
For sure. I think digital technology is a foe and a friend. And we've been fortunate to have transitioned pretty easily to remote counseling, online trainings, using social media to stay in touch, whether it's through WhatsApp groups, Viber, other social media platforms. So that desire to connect is still there. I think that virtual community is so important, like the one we're participating in today, to keep everyone connected. But I still feel that while these strategies are important for advancing the numbers that we're reaching, it still doesn't replace the in-person one-on-one contact, especially with respect to mental health issues and having that care, face-to-face care and support.
Absolutely. Well, Wendy, Linda, I know we're running out of time, so pass it on to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Castillo, and thank you to all of our amazing speakers and to each of you for joining us. Good night.